For a long time, I've been getting questions about product photography using ComfyUI, especially whether we can use the trending Flux model to generate more realistic and grounded product images. The answer is yes. And rather than just giving you the results, today I'll share my workflow and explain the principles and functions behind each step so you can build your own product photography workflow from scratch. Based on my understanding, the product image creation process can be broken down into the following steps. Plan the final image, including the size, product dimensions, positioning, and background. Provide the product image and extract the subject and mask. Merge the product with a generated or provided background. Add lighting and shadow effects. Refine the image, upscaling, in painting, etc. Enhance and restore the product details. Color correction. Generate a product video. That's the overall process. Step 3 is the key, and for those with less demanding needs, you can stop after completing this step. The following 5 steps will enhance the results, making them more cohesive, vivid, realistic, and refined. For each step, I'll list one or more implementation methods, and you can choose based on your preferences. You can also use methods I haven't mentioned, which you've learned elsewhere, especially from content creators specializing in product image generation. As technology evolves, you can replace them with newer, better models and plugins. Alright, without further ado, let's dive into ComfyUI and start building. Before setting up the nodes, we need to clarify a few things. What is the product subject? Cosmetics or a rice cooker? Do you have a specific background image? If not, and you need to generate one, what style should you choose? Natural scenery, tech vibe, or fresh aesthetics? What is the size and positioning of the subject within the background? Will it take center stage? Will it have its own stand? If you're unsure, you can browse some e-commerce sites for inspiration or let Flux generate a few complete images as references. For today's video, I'll be using a perfume I personally own as the subject. The original image was taken directly with my phone. For the reference image, I had Flux generate a professional close-up of the perfume. I must say, Flux is really powerful. Even without using LoRa or explicitly describing its shape in the prompt, the image generated from just the name is incredibly accurate, almost identical to the perfume I have. So, if you're looking to generate images for well-known brands, you could just end it here and hire Flux as your agency partner. Back to the topic. I'm quite satisfied with the overall effect of the image. So let's answer the 3 questions from earlier. The product subject is perfume. The background is clean and modern, with delicate white petals, giving it a fresh look. The image size is 1536 x 1024. And the subject is slightly below the center of the background. Based on these conclusions, I'll create 2 number nodes in ComfyUI, setting the image width and height to 1536 and 1024. Then, I'll add a load image node and upload the photo of my perfume. This image was taken straight from my phone, and it feels far from professional. Let's see if this workflow can help boost its price tag. There are many ways to extract the subject from a photo. In previous videos, I've introduced methods using the WasNode Suite's RemBG and Kajai Node Segment Anything too. But today, I'll be using the Layer Style plugin, which is a real Swiss Army knife for image processing in ComfyUI. It integrates a lot of image recognition and segmentation models. I paired it with RemBG and tested 7 segmentation nodes to find the one that works best for my image, Segment Anything Ultra V2. Create this node. Set the prompt to bottle. Leave the other parameters as is, and add 2 nodes to preview the separated subject and mask. Hit run. And we've successfully obtained the product subject and its mask. Now, we need to place the subject on a canvas for AI processing. Add an Image Blend Advanced node, which can place the object in a specific position. However, you can't just give it the subject directly. It needs to be combined with a background to generate the canvas. Since I don't have a specific background image, I'll simply add a CR Color Panel node to generate a solid color background. Modify a few settings to make them inputs, connect the width and height to the previously defined nodes, and use Get Color Tone to match the subject's color. Connecting it to the fill_color_hex input. Complete the other connections. And add 2 preview nodes. Since we don't need to invert the mask, set invert_mask to false. Click Run. The background looks good, with the color referencing the product. But the subject size doesn't match the canvas. I'll adjust its position and size. Then run it again. This time, it's perfect. With the subject securely in the center and the corresponding mask correct. Group everything together for easier management. The canvas and mask will be frequently used in the upcoming steps, so let's connect them to a reroute node for easier access. We'll also have other nodes needing the inverted mask, so we'll prepare that as well. There are many ways to have AI fill the remaining parts of the canvas, including Flux and Paint, BrushNet, PowerPaint, etc. I'll start by demonstrating with Flux, but later I'll walk you through Flux Paste, BrushNet, and PowerPaint, each with its pros, cons, and suitable scenarios. For now, add a set of Flux text-to-image workflow nodes. The positive prompt will describe the environment based on the earlier reference image without mentioning the product. Add an in-paint model conditioning node. With the canvas as the image input and the inverted mask as the mask input. Then add Flux Guidance and K-Sampler nodes. Setting CFG to 1 and choosing Beta for the sampling method. Complete all connections. Group everything together. And click Run. Zoom in to check the result. It looks pretty good. The perfume is correctly placed on a marble surface, with white petals scattered around naturally. At this point, the results would already meet many users' needs. But we strive for perfection, and the progress bar is still long, don't worry. I'll place the result next to the canvas for comparison with the upcoming enhanced versions. In the current image, the lighting effects on the subject and background come from my photo and Flux's generation, which are inconsistent. So, let's bring out the lighting master, IC Light, and relight the entire image. Add the necessary IC Light nodes. The completed image goes through VAE encode and connects to the foreground input, leaving the background blank. Remember to select the FC model. We now need to generate a lighting map as latent input for the sampler. The simplest method is using Simple Light Source, which allows you to customize directional lighting, but since that's too simple, I won't demonstrate it. Recently, I learned a neat trick, using Llama to relight the subject, while preserving as much of the original lighting as possible. Let me show you. Add the Llama node from Layer Style, along with Color of Shadow and Highlight and Gaussian Blur nodes. The input for Llama is the previously completed image, and for the mask, choose the non-inverted version from the Reroute node. The other two nodes' parameters remain mostly unchanged, just tweak the brightness and blur settings. They work together to generate a lighting map resembling the original. I've added a bunch of preview nodes, so we can take a look in a moment. The sampler's parameters should be adjusted to match IC light. And once everything's connected, hit run. The lighting has changed as expected, though the text on the perfume bottle got a bit messed up. But don't worry, I'll show you how to fix that later. Before continuing, let's take a look at the lighting map we just generated. It's pretty interesting. Feel free to tweak the settings yourself if you're curious. I'll place this image up top and group these nodes. Comparing the before and after images, the difference in lighting is quite clear. To ensure consistency in later steps, I'll fix the seed. Since my seed is applied post-processing, I'll need to run it again to lock it in. Click Run. And the resulting image looks good. Alright, let's continue refining. Since the IC Light model is based on SD 1.5, the image quality might not be as high. Let's use Flux to add a bit more detail. Building a simple image-to-image workflow with Flux. Since we're doing low intensity in painting, the prompt isn't important. I'll just reuse the same one from the previous in painting. And I'm just too lazy to add a node that reverse engineers prompts from an image. The latent underscore image input will use the image from the IC Light process. With a low denoising strength of 0.35. Click Run. The image quality has improved, and the product looks more textured. I'll place this result into the showcase for comparison. As mentioned earlier, the text on the product was altered during in-painting, which is unacceptable. We need to restore the original details, and there are two mainstream solutions I'll demonstrate. You only need to choose one. First, add the Detail Transfer node from the IC Light plugin implemented by ComfyUI. Connect the target to the resulting image, the source to the canvas, and the mask to the subject's mask. I think soft_light mode works best, but feel free to experiment. Click Run. And the result appears quickly. Zoom in. And you'll see the text on the bottle is now clear again. Comparing the result, the colors are also closer to the original image. Another way to restore details is by using the Frequency Detail Restore node from Layer Style. Search for it and add it. The inputs are the same as before: resulting image, original image, and mask, though they are named slightly differently as image, detail_image, and mask. Keep the default parameters and add a preview image node. Click Run. And the details are also restored. Place the result for comparison. The colors are a bit lighter than detail transfer, blending better with the background. Personally, I prefer this restoration. Sometimes, you may want to adjust the colors of the result, so I'll demonstrate two different methods depending on the situation. If you want to adjust the color of the result to match another image, you can use the Color Match node. I liked the previous image from the Flux re-rendering, so I'll use it as a reference to adjust the final result after restoring the details. Keep the default settings and click Run. Zoom in to check the image. There doesn't seem to be much difference. I'll place it for comparison. Since detail restoration didn't significantly alter color-related aspects, the change is minimal. Another common scenario is when the subject's color doesn't quite match the background. In this case, you can use the Auto Adjust node, which automatically adjusts the color of the content in the mask. Connect the result and the mask. Add a preview image node. And click Run with the default parameters. Oops, that's too much. The product color changed drastically. Looks like I can't be lazy here, so I'll tweak the parameters a bit. Set strength to 30, and mode to Lum plus Sat. Run it again. Much better. The image is more balanced now, though there's still room for fine-tuning. When using this method, you may need to adjust the parameters based on your product. By the way, you can also use the inverted mask to adjust the background color. If the mountain won't move, I will, so to speak. That wraps up the Flux in Painting method. Now let's take a look at the final image after each step, see how much more refined and polished it is. In the workflow I just described, the background was generated by Flux. But if you already have a specific background image that you want to use, we'll need a different approach. Disable some of the previous node groups, leaving only the parts for extracting the subject and mask. Add a new Load Image node and upload your prepared background image. Then, add an Image Blend Advanced node. Connecting the background image, subject, and mask. This step is similar to the previous workflow, as the node will place the subject onto the background in a specific position. Click Run. And oops, it didn't quite work, as the subject didn't appear on the image. This happened because the node's default invert_mask setting is true. We need to set it to false. I'll also reduce the scale to 0.3 to make the subject smaller. Run it again. The previous issue is gone. But I'm still not happy with the subject's size and position, so I'll adjust them a bit. Now the result looks good. Although the subject is correctly positioned, it looks a bit unnatural since it's just pasted on top. Don't worry. We can reuse the second half of the previous workflow to fix this easily. Let's organize the nodes for easier operation later on. Re-enable all the nodes from the IC Light step onward, including the color correction nodes, replacing the input from Flux and painting with the current composited image. In theory, the prompt for Flux re-rendering should be adjusted to match the new background. But since we're doing a low-strength image-to-image transformation at 0.35, it won't rely heavily on the prompt. So I'll be lazy here. Click Run. This time, I won't check each step's results individually. Let's go straight to the final result. And it looks perfect to me. Besides these two Flux-based solutions, you may have heard of BrushNet and PowerPaint. They are models specifically trained to blend subjects with backgrounds, and they're quite simple to use. Let me show you how they work. The BrushNet workflow is very straightforward. It's essentially an extension of the SD 1.5 text-to-image workflow with an added BrushNet section. Pay attention to the prompt. Unlike Flux, you need to include both the background and the subject information. Add the BrushNet node, set up its connections. And for the BrushNet model, I prefer to use random_mask. Select a realistic style SD 1.5 base model. Use the 840000 VAE. And set the scale to 0.8. Add K-sampler, VAE encode, and a preview image node. The workflow is complete. Click Run. The image looks cohesive overall. Although the quality is a bit lower than the Flux version, you can improve it using the optimization workflow we discussed earlier. BrushNet has many powerful features. There are examples in the ComfyUI BrushNet plugin description, but I won't go into detail here. You can explore them on your own. The plugin also supports the latest PowerPaint v2, which works similarly to BrushNet. I'll copy the BrushNet workflow. Add a new PowerPaint node. And replace the BrushNet node with it. Set the scale to 0.8 and switch the model to PowerPaint v2-1. Click Run. In the resulting image, the perfume bottle blends well with the background. But it looks a bit too large compared to the surrounding objects. It might need another rerun. To summarize, BrushNet and PowerPaint are practical and easy to use. but since they're based on SD 1.5 and SDXL, the image quality is a bit lower and requires additional workflows to refine the results. But who knows? One day we might get a Flux-based BrushNet model. For the final part of this video, let's talk about how to animate the image. I won't go over methods like runway, cling, or SVD today. Instead, I'll share a super simple workflow for adding dynamic lighting effects to any image using IC Light. The workflow is split into 3 sections. The left side creates the lighting map using the spline editor node. Ensure the width and height match your image, and the curve represents the movement of the light source. Adjust it slightly. The middle part applies IC Light to the image, similar to the previous workflow. The final section generates the video, including detail restoration, interpolation, and video combine. Click Run. Speed it up, and check the result. This is the light source movement generated from the curve. And here's the result of blending the lighting with the image. Although the product itself didn't move, the lighting's transition from left to right creates dynamic light and shadow changes, making the image more lively. Now that you've seen how the e-commerce product workflow works, I'm confident you can build your own version. If you want to save some time, you can download the detailed workflow we just created from the link in the description. Just remember to tweak the prompts and parameters to suit your needs. That's it for today's video. See you next time.